If we ask the general population what sense they believe it's the most important when deciding about buying something, they will say that their visual sense is by far the most important. And they would say the same if asked what sense they think most marketers and advertisers are targeting for their clients. At first sight, this seems to be true for all of us, as we tend to believe that we are mostly visual creatures, depending on our sight and the most from all other senses. But I will challenge that by inviting you to take a virtual walk with me around downtown Tokyo or London or Hong Kong or maybe in Times Square in New York City. You choose for yourself where you virtual want to go. In this exercise, I want you to pretend that you are a tourist visiting one of these places. And if it makes sense, and it's easier for you to visualize this, you can go on YouTube and watch a video of Times Square before COVID hit, for example, taking in all that you can see there. You'll be drawn to the red neon news bars, the huge billboards of Calvin Klein or Starbucks or Google, and you'll see there most of the famous brands that you will immediately recognize. Also, try to imagine the smells that you will encounter there as well and the unstoppable noise accompanying these places. Now, imagine that instead of being a tourist and just seeing these places once or twice in your life, you're living there, close by, and you pass Times Square every day on your way home, when you go grocery shopping, when you go to work, when you walk with friends, when you walk your dog, etc. Do you think that you are still going to notice all those lights and huge billboards like you did the first time or the second time or the third time you saw it? How about that noise? Is it going to be as predominant to your conscious mind if you are exposed to it all the time? The answer is probably not, because let's face the truth, in today's age we are more visually overstimulated than ever before in human history, as well as we are exposed to numerous background sounds that our brains have learned to ignore due to overexposure. Studies and surveys have shown that the more stimulated we are, the harder it is to capture our attention with those stimuli. And guess what? Marketing companies are fully aware of the results of these studies. Therefore, I will tell you that most marketing companies consider these types of advertising, focusing on the visual, in your face kind of colorful representation, it's not beneficial to them because they know that it does not lead us, the consumers, to buy their product. Not anymore, anyways. Of course, I'm not minimizing to zero the power of the sight in the decision-making process of what we buy. However, it turns out that the sense of smell and the sense of sound are substantially more important than anyone had ever thought before. And this is not only applying in the music or the food industries, which would be logical, but it's applying to a large range of categories of products that turned out to be advertised much better to consumers if the marketing focus is on sound or smell, often working the best together with visual representation. So in combination, as it makes the advertising much more effective and much more memorable. Why are all these senses and not just one of them important, you may ask? Well, let's see. What is the purpose of advertising and marketing in the first place? And we will discuss this more in detail in our marketing lectures of the course. But for now, let's say that the deepest and most desired reason for advertising something, it's the emotional connection, to emotionally engage the potential clients with that product or with us. To create the meaningful need or want that will lead to action. The action of buying the product, which is meant to fulfill a need and provide a solution. It turns out that we don't respond well to just seeing pretty or colorful images and logos, like it was believed in the past. Instead, we respond well to certain fragrances that hit our noses, certain sounds that hit our ears as well, while the whole experience creates usually a positive emotion inside us. Have you ever been inside of a Vegas casino or any casino throughout the world? What do they all have in common apart from the overwhelming colorful machines? I don't know if you've noticed, but there is a specific sound that accompanies each casino. And many people have said that entering a casino that doesn't have those specific sounds is quite disappointing. But beyond that, there is that sweet smell that's barely noticeable and the air filled with oxygen, pumped through the air conditioning ducts, specially to keep the casino's clients awake for longer times so they can play more and therefore spend more money. And of course, no casino would ever have any windows for the clients to see that it's day or night outside. Even on the cruise ships, the casino, it's in the middle. And how about the free drinks that the Vegas casinos offer to players? Often the drinks are not fancy nor beautiful. However, they are free if you're playing, and they're done just right to tickle your sense of taste but keep you going. They don't want you to get drunk, so they don't make the drinks too strong to make you pass out, but they want them to be just right. So together with the extra oxygen in the air, with the sweet smell, with the sound, plus the bright machines, all of that together entices us to stay longer and play more. There were studies done on the subject. In an article published in 2015 by Gemma Calvert and Dr. Abhishek Pathak, concluded that companies that can create the right multisensory mix will deliver superior experiences for consumers, and they will far outperform any single sensory broadcast alone. Let's talk about another example. A group of participants were invited to look at the image of an amazing looking cheeseburger sandwich while they were exposed to the slightest whiff of a freshly baked bun, a smell meant to remind many people of a comforting experience from their life. The conclusion was that when people see and smell something that they like at the same time, there are various regions of the brain that light up all together, and among them is the right medial orbitofrontal cortex, which is a region of the brain associated with our perception of something pleasant or likable. More than that, when we are exposed to these combinations that seem to go well together, like, smell and sight, the right piriform cortex, which is humans' primary olfactory cortex, as well as the amygdala, which reveals the emotional relevance of that exposure, they are both activated. So, in other words, when a sense that we like the fresh baked bun smell in the study, matches up with an equally appealing image like the great looking cheeseburger, not only do we perceive it as pleasant, but we are much more likely to remember it because it creates a positive emotion in us. However, other combinations can happen as well. Let's go with the next example. What if we are exposed to two likable sensory stimuli? Let's say the great looking cheeseburger sandwich, but this time it's presented together with a sweet vanilla scent. In this case, even though on their own, most of us tend to like both those stimuli because we like them, but they do not match together, and when they don't match together, we're never going to buy that. These are known as incongruous senses, which can be both pleasant but not a good combination. Isn't this interesting? But the study did not stop here, because the results also showed that when participants were presented with stimuli from the smell senses alone in our human brains, at that same time the brain regions corresponding to the sight of something were responsive as well. In other words, when we only smell something pleasant, a fresh baking bread. Without seeing it, we can imagine that product that we are thinking, that we're smelling. In our cheeseburger case, for example, it will go this way. The participants have not been exposed to the image of the cheeseburger, but they've only been exposed to the smell of a fresh baked bun. And they started imagining products associated with that smell, including a cheeseburger, a fresh bread, a hamburger maybe, and any other bread sandwiches. Did it ever happen to you to walk down a street and suddenly to be hit in the nose with this delicious smell of a freshly made Belgian waffle? You look around and you don't see the Belgian waffles anywhere. However, in your mind, you can already imagine it. And even more, you can imagine yourself eating one. So as you can see, our senses working together are very important in helping us understand the world around us and in determining our actions and behaviors. Many marketers are very aware of these factors and they use them to their advantage when marketing their products. If you don't believe me, open a little jar or a box of something that you used to play with or eat as a child, like Play-Doh. Smell it and see if it's not taking you back to your childhood. We all know that there are products that smell the same and have the same taste and are marketed all over the world, which makes them recognizable no matter where we go. Pantene shampoos smell the same in any country I've been. Coca-Cola, in its classical version, tickles your senses and sparkles the same in any country. If you ever walked into a fast food restaurant with the intention of ordering something healthy, like a salad, but instead you ended up ordering and eating a triple bacon cheeseburger with a side of fries, well, you can blame it on the smell inside that restaurant. And most of the time, you think that, they're grilling in the back, it smells so good, but they're not. They're not just grilling the meat and some bacon on a hot smoking grill in the kitchen right then and there. Most fast food stores have an ambience canister smell pumping through their vents just to get you to order that cheeseburger from them instead of the salad because your mouth was watering right away when you walked in. In another study carried out by Dr. Alan Hirsch, the researchers placed two identical pairs of Nike running shoes in two separate but identical rooms. The only difference was that one room was sprayed with a light, fresh scent, and the other one just had regular AC. The results of this little study were amazing. By a margin of 84%, the subjects preferred the running shoes that they looked at in the freshly scented room. And not only that, but they assessed that those Nikes from that scented room were costing roughly $10 more than the same exact pair of shoes in the unscented room. And you may think that the senses of smell, sound, sight, and taste are the only combination marketers are focusing on. However, that's not true. Touch. It's also something that is very important because it creates a strong emotional bond between consumers and the product. Therefore, many retailers allow us to sample the products they sell because by touching the product, we tend to get attached to that feel. We tend to like how it feels in our hands. We tend to like how it feels on our faces if it's about makeup or cream. Trust me when I say that nothing is done by chance. Everything has a purpose behind it when it's about marketing and advertising. Restaurants and grocery stores are offering free samples so you can taste their foods. Cosmetic retailers offer free samples of fragrances and creams so you can feel it and smell it on your body. Clothing retailers offer you dressing rooms where you can try the clothes on so then you become attached to them. They even recognize the fact that consumers are connected emotionally to different colors. Therefore, they often display their products based on those color schemes. Sounds can even help us decide in a liquor store whether we pick up a French wine or a German wine, depending on what type of music they are playing in the background. Isn't this interesting? All these factors, images, colors, logos, smells, sounds, textures, are vital parts of certain brands and are used heavily in the displaying of products, playing an important role in our decision-making processes. And ultimately, yes, influencing us, the consumers, in what we buy or we don't buy. Now, keep in mind that marketers are people, so therefore consumers as well, right? So with this being said, let's move forward to our next lecture.